And you can see from the slide here what the program is. It should take about half an hour. And first, I'm going to start with welcoming you. So, welcome everyone from all over the world. We have people from all the way from Latvia. So, I'd like to welcome you first and then start with an opening question. Then introduce to you what we understand by intercultural competence. Intercultural competence is a crucial topic for our students because we believe that it's one of our unique selling points, that we're training you so intensively to become so interculturally competent. And we're also convinced that this will help you make yourself more of value for the labor market if you're able to interact effectively and appropriately with people from different countries. Then I'd like to show you what our C program looks like over the course of 3 years. Of course, our bachelor degree program takes 4 years, but our IC program is placed in the first 3 years of that program. And then there's also ample time for questions and answers. So yeah, let's go. I would now like to navigate to the next slide, and that's not working. Why is this? Oh, yes, here's the next slide. So my name is Cheryl Gerretsen. I'm let's say, a very senior lecturer in our program, and I'm specialized in intercultural competence training, and I'm actually also in charge of it. So I not only teach this topic, but I'm also a trainer of intercultural competence for staff at our own university, but also in other places. And I also do research about how students and staff best develop their intercultural competence. So yeah, I'm one of the people that designed this intercultural competence program for you, for the students. I'm hoping to navigate to my next slide now. Yeah. So what I would like you to do now, please, is to think of the world map. And now, please don't cheat. I know that this is a webinar and that I know that you know that I can't see what you're doing, but please don't look it up on Google. Please just from the top of your head, type in the chat box 2 countries that you think are situated in the middle of the world map. So just 2 countries that are situated in the middle of the world map. And let me see. Valerie, Nada, and Vera. Which 2 countries do you know are situated in the middle of the world map? Vera says, really sorry, can I check? I signed up for correct course. International Business Rotterdam. Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yes, Vera, you're here for one of the webinars on the International Business course of the Rotterdam University. Yeah. So we had a session a lot earlier today, I think at 5 our time. That was more a general information session, and now you're in a trial lesson, an online trial lesson of one of the subjects that we teach, which is intercultural competence, Vera. But in the meantime, I was asking the others whether they could maybe type which countries they think are situated in the middle of the world. Anyone? Okay, I see here that Nada says somewhere in Africa, I guess. Yes, so according to Nada, Africa is in the center of the world. And so does Valerie. Yeah. Okay, well, very well. I'd now like to show you the next slide, which shows you that, which countries are situated in the middle of the world really depend on where you enjoyed your education. So people that were trained in their education in, for instance, Europe, will have had a world map in their secondary and primary school, in which Europe pretty much is the center of the world. So then, indeed, as you see in the top map here, Europe is pretty much in the center, and then below that is Africa. And if you look very closely, a country like, for instance, Tunisia or Morocco would then be the center of the world, right? However, that's only a way, or that only says something about where you have been educated. So, would you be surprised to hear that people from, for instance, Asia have learned world maps in school, where Asia is in the center of the world? So, that world map would look a little bit more like the one below, where Indonesia, for instance, is the center of the world. And then would it surprise you that the world is actually a globe? So technically, there is no saying which side is up, which side is down, which side is the middle. And that's exactly the point that we're trying to make in the intercultural competence lessons, is that your worldview is only a worldview. And the people that you're doing international business with come from a completely different context sometimes. And that means that they may have different ways of thinking, but especially also different ways of communicating that go beyond just speaking different languages. So we're talking about things such as nonverbal communication, body language, gestures, facial expressions. So it's things like that you should be looking out for. So the second question is, when you watch movies or series, are they mostly European or American? Oh, Nada says, wow, I never thought about that. Ah, good. So I already changed a little bit in you. So Vera says that she mainly watches American movies. Nada says it's a mix. Valerie also says American movies. So Nada, if you say it's a mix of what? Of European and American, or also other types of movies? Vera says English language. Aha, yeah. And Nada says other types too. Okay, yeah. So that's really interesting. So, of course, especially when you are from this side of the world. Oh, Nada says Arabic, for example. Yeah, good. Because that's going to help you learn more about other perspectives. So the thing is, everybody's being born and raised in certain contexts, and that context will then determine how you view the world, and also how you view others, right? And how much you understand of the other people's perspective on the world. Now, people that have been born and raised in Western Europe, for instance, very often will mostly watch American TV shows, European TV shows. But if you only watch that type of movies or that type of information, then of course you're thinking about what's going on in the world and thinking about what's normal or what's hip and hot or happening is very much determined by only these two sources. So it's a very interesting thought experiment to think of, okay, suppose I grew up in Vietnam, or suppose I was born and raised in Chile, for instance. How would that then have changed my worldview, and how different would I have come out? So how differently would I be thinking about things and looking at things, right? So it's that type of thought experiments that we do with our students from the very first year on to make them more culturally sensitive, culturally aware, so that it's easier for them to step in the shoes of somebody from another country. So we have this program in place in international business called Intercultural Competence. Of course, the larger part of our program is about business topics such as, what have you, marketing, finance, human resource management, logistics, supply chain management. So all of these programs that you see in any business program, right? But apart from that, we also want to train our students to be extra effective in an intercultural setting, because that's what we train you for, right? International business. As a matter of fact, we want to make sure that everybody who leaves our university with a degree has international experience. So what we do is we tell all of our students and that it's compulsory to actually do at least one semester abroad. So everyone who goes to our university to study international business has to go abroad for at least one semester. And this could be the internship. It could also be an international exchange. Now, one semester is about 20 weeks. This, by the way, does not go for students who are already international students. So if you come from Latvia to live in Rotterdam to follow our program, for you, it's not compulsory to leave the country again and go somewhere else for internship because you're already abroad, right? But for the Dutch students, it's really important that they understand that they do have to spend half a year in some other country. And almost any other country goes, but some other country. Why? Because we believe and we know, there's a lot of research about that, that people can be much more effective in doing international business when they have this international experience and when they are interculturally competent. And what we mean by interculturally competent is that you are able to work effectively as well as appropriately in an intercultural context. So effectively and appropriately are not necessarily the same things, right? So by effectively, we mean that you reach your goals, but you have to reach them in a way that is culturally appropriate. Now, the nice thing is that our program is so international that being in our program itself is already an international experience. So even if you come from the Netherlands, or even if you come from Rotterdam and you go to our program and you look around in your classes, as a matter of fact, this week is the first week of another trimester in our university. So today I taught 3 completely new classes, and I saw that about 60% of our students did not come from the Netherlands, but they came really from all over the place, like Vietnam, Latvia, also a lot of Spanish people. Yeah, so that makes it a really, really nice international mix, and also a good breeding ground for you to practice your intercultural knowledge and skills. So our students have about 70 nationalities, and also our teachers are very international. So the teachers, we have about, I think, 110 teachers at the moment. They have about 35 different nationalities. Now, what do you need to be interculturally competent? It's very important to understand that intercultural competence is much more than learning about other cultures. As a matter of fact, we don't teach so much about other countries. So it's not so much about, things like in China they eat with chopsticks and in France they eat with knife and fork. I mean, that's something that's easy enough for you to Google. And of course, it's helpful if you know these things. I mean, it's helpful if you know what the greeting rituals in a country are. Like, do you shake hands, or do you bow, or do you nod, or do you make this, let's say, namaste gesture, right? That's interesting and somewhat helpful, but it's much more important that you understand what the effects of internationality is on communication. And for that, it's very important that you understand how you have been culturally programmed and what is normal according to your worldview or not. I see in the meantime, by the way, that Vera posted a question. Vera posted the question, but is it an option? I guess that you mean, Vera, is it an option to go abroad even if you are an international student? Yes. So even if you are an international student, let's say you come from Latvia to Rotterdam, you can choose to spend the 4 years duration of the program in Rotterdam, or you can choose to do your internship in, let's say, Argentina. Why not? Yeah. Okay, and then Nada says, do you get this subject throughout the 4 years of IB? Not throughout the 4 years, but you do get it in the first 2 years very intensively. And in the third year, we ask you to show us that you are interculturally competent by reporting back to us how you adjusted to the company culture during your internship. Yeah, so I'll show you the final slide that I have for you today is actually an overview of the program so that you can see how we work. Right, so going back to the slide, what is needed for people in general and also for you as prospective students to become more interculturally competent? Well, of course, knowledge of other countries helps, but that's really not the focus of our program. What really helps is experience. And then the most important thing is that you have to have the right attitude. I mean, you can know everything there is to know about other cultures, but if you don't have the right attitudes, it's not going to help you to work effectively with people from different backgrounds. And as a matter of fact, you have people that are very interculturally competent that hardly have any national knowledge, because it's much more important that you have attitudes such as open-mindedness, that you're able to adjust your thinking and especially adjust your behavior to whatever the situation requires, and also that you have a curiosity towards other cultures. Now, everyone who comes in our program takes a so-called psychological test, which is called the Global Mind Monitor, which is a test that maps out for you what the level of your attitudes and your skills in this area is, so that you know what the first priority would be for you to develop. Right. So our program, what does it look like? It's good for you to know that it is a long-term program that spans 3 years. So you get lessons in the first 2 years, and then in the third year, we ask you to exemplify what you've learned and report back to us during your international internship. It really focuses also on cultural self-knowledge. So if you know what your normal way of interpreting and responding is, then you know how you could adjust that to better accommodate the other people in your context. We're making a lot of use of the diversity in the classroom. I mean, that's really, really cool. Like I said, in my classes today, from the get-go, you saw the learning happening because people exchanged experiences like, okay, oh yeah, is that your greeting ritual? Oh, well, in Spain, we do this. And oh, in Vietnam, we do this. And so just being in the classroom, and especially with the exercises that we have, you'll see that learning happens automatically. Because our lessons consist for a large part of a lot of dialogue and reflection. So we have people work in the intercultural competence classroom together on certain questions or assignments so that they can learn from each other's cultural perspectives. And then what's also very important, finally, is that we have an intentional, continuous focus on intercultural competence. So you don't only get intercultural competence in the course that we give you. So we give one of those courses in year one, we give two of those courses in year two, but it's not only during those courses, during those subjects, that you're busy with mastering intercultural competence, but we actually also have you branch it out to other components of the program. And what I mean by that is actually this. So you can see here in the left column, you can see that in year one, we focus on me culturally. So not me, but you culturally. In year two, it's about you in an intercultural team. And then in year three, it's about you in an international company, because of course you're going to do your international internship, right? So what we do is in year one, we teach you, let's say, the basics. So a lot of the basic theories around intercultural communication. What kind of different communication styles do you have? So we talk about concepts such as direct communication versus indirect communication, verbal versus non-verbal communication. We practice it with different types of exercises. And then in the end, after the first course of intercultural competence year one, you the final assignment is that you write an IC start profile in which you explain to us using the theories what your current level is and what your current communication style is, and also what the strengths and weaknesses of that are. And then, especially important, what the first thing is that you're going to work on. And we're asking you to create a development goal on intercultural competence that you're then going to work on for the rest of the year, together with the cultural others that you have in your classroom, for instance, and in your business teams, because we have you work on projects with people, with other classmates that have to have a different nationality than yours. So that's really interesting. Yeah, what does the project, what projects, what they look like is what Nada asks. Well, I'm especially a specialist in intercultural competence, so I don't know all of the details of the projects. And it also really depends, for instance, on which specialization you choose, because in year two, you have to choose between 4 specializations. But for instance, a really cool project in year two of the commerce track. So commerce track is one of the 4 specializations, is that you actually have to create your own company with 7 other classmates, for which you actually, I mean, in real life, have to find funding, so find investors to invest in your company, and then actually import something or export something to another country. So and this is not a simulation, this is real. I mean, we're asking you to sell real products to real people, make as much profit as possible, and all of that yeah, that's a really big project, but it's also an extremely cool project. And the nice thing also is that you collaborate with 7 other students that mostly have different nationalities as well, so you can already practice, be it in a very small context, um, how collaborating with colleagues from different backgrounds really goes. Of course, that's in the second year. In the first year, we ask you to make an internal analysis and an external analysis of companies that really exist, but without the companies really being present, right? So we're asking you to do, for instance, map out the internal and external situation of the company by using a business model canvas. But the company is not really involved. So, we're talking about companies such as Volkswagen or Gucci or big international companies. But these companies are not really involved. So it's more a case study. Right. So I was talking about the overview of how we weaved this working on intercultural competence and your development of intercultural competence in the program. So this is what we do in year one, right? The intercultural competence STAR profile. And then in year two, we focus more on collaborating with people in an intercultural team, because in year two, we also have you collaborate in intercultural teams. Again, we ask you to make a self-analysis and then define a development goal that you're going to be working on in the rest of the year. And then in year three, the idea is that you go on an international internship during 20 weeks. And in that international internship, we want you to make the most in terms of learning experience, to make the most of that internship by sending you off with the task of adapting as well as possible to the company culture and also analyzing the company culture. So that way you get the opportunity to actually put in practice the thing that we've been trying to teach you in years 1 and 2. right? So first, you practice it within the safety of your school environment, and then in year 3, we let you loose in the actual business world, so that you can find out for yourself how that goes, international business. So that brings me to the final part, which is questions and answers. So, people, do you have questions and answers for me? I'll give you some time. I can't guarantee that I know all of the answers to all of your questions, because, like I said, I'm an intercultural competence teacher as well as a PPD teacher, which stands for personal and professional development. So these are all the more, let's say, leadership and psychology related topics. Vera says, is the university campus based or scattered around the city? Well, Rotterdam University is a really, really big university with about 44,000 students. And I think the university owns some, I'm not sure if they own it, but at least we occupy some 7 different locations. But all of the business programs are centered in one location in the east part of the city of Rotterdam, which is called Woudestein. And there we have a really, really cool, very big modern building that houses all of the business programs that we have. So we have one campus for the business programs alone, but it's not a, let's say, American style campus where you also have student housing included in the campus. So the university campus is just that. It's a building with facilities for teaching, and most students don't stay on campus. We have some student accommodation on campus, but it's not so easy to get in there. So most of our students live in other places in the city of Rotterdam, or sometimes also outside of Rotterdam. I have to say, by the way, that it's not so easy to find accommodation in Rotterdam, or in the Netherlands for that matter at the moment. Okay, Nada says, I was wondering, do you need to be very social or talkative for this study? Haha. I asked this in the other webinar, but the answer wasn't really clear for me. Well, Nada, how can I say this? You have all different kinds of people. So some people are very extroverted, some people are very introverted. Sometimes people are very present just because they come from, let's say, a very assertive culture. And then you also have students that are a lot more quiet, partly because they're from a culture where it's the idea is not that you talk all the time and that you're being very assertive. So you don't need to be very social or talkative, but like in many situations, sometimes it does help to be social, because specifically in our program, because people come from all over the world. So it's not like in other programs where everybody comes from Rotterdam. And you have the backup of your family and friends back home, because back home is Rotterdam for those people, right? So then it's not so difficult to manage yourself. But in our study program, like I said, in my first year, my impression was this today that about 60% of the students is international. So these are all people that moved to Rotterdam or the surroundings of Rotterdam, especially for this study program. And then, of course, it helps if they can make some friends among other international students, because then that's your new support system. Because our international students don't have family or friends to fall back on, because they're still in their respective countries. Even kijken, let's see. Vera says, are international students given support to find housing in year 1? Yes, but only relatively. I have to say, I don't know the details. This is typically the type of question that you could have asked in the first part today. So I'm not sure, because I'm just an intercultural competence teacher, right? So I'm not sure what our school does to support international students find housing. Ah, you were stuck in a meeting and missed the first part. Okay, yeah, no problem. Any other questions? We're running late by 5 minutes. It's not a problem for me, but I don't want to keep you too long. Farah says, what type of student would this not suit? That's an interesting way of putting it. Well, of course, I'm also looking at it from an intercultural perspective, right? But students who are not very open-minded about people that are different from themselves maybe would find it hard to get along with other students in our program, because the program is really international. And just to put it like this, if you don't like foreigners, then our program is really not the place for you to be. It's an interesting question. And this is my honest answer, Farah. Okay, one final question before we close off for today. Is there anything urgent that you still need to know? No, I don't see any other questions appearing. So then I'm hoping that I just gave you a little bit more information of what you can expect from our program. Again, intercultural competence is only one of the many things that we have in our program, but it is something that spans a period of 3 years and that keeps coming back, right? So in that sense, it's important that you understand what it is and that you understand that we offer this. But please also keep an eye on any other promotional activities that we do in the future, so that you can really get a good understanding of what we do in our program. And then for now, I would like to thank you for your attention, and maybe I'll see you next year or the year after that in Rotterdam. Okay, have a nice evening, everyone. Bye, Vera. And who else did we have? Bye, Nada and Valerie. See you next time.